It started on a chilly November evening. The wind howled outside our modest suburban home, rattling the windows as I set the table for dinner. The scent of roasted chicken filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of cinnamon candles I had lit earlier. My husband, Eric, sat at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone with a furrowed brow. "Dinner's ready," I said, forcing a smile. Eric barely looked up, muttering something under his breath as he continued to tap away. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when we couldn't keep our hands off each other, when his laugh lit up my world, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. But somewhere along the way, the spark fizzled out. Conversations became transactional, affection felt obligatory, and I began to feel like a shadow of the woman I once was. I glanced at Eric as he finally put his phone down and reached for his fork. His face was tired, lined with the stress of his job as an investment banker. He looked older than his 35 years, and I couldn't help but wonder if I looked just as worn. "How was your day?" I ventured. "Fine," he replied curtly, not meeting my gaze. "Yours? It was okay." I went to the bookstore and found that novel you'd mentioned a while back. I tried to inject enthusiasm into my voice. "That's great," he said, his tone flat. He didn't ask what else I did, didn't inquire further. Silence settled between us, heavy and suffocating. I felt the weight of unspoken words pressing against my chest, but I swallowed them down along with my meal. Later that night, as Eric snored softly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Was this it? Was this what marriage was supposed to be? The thought of spending the rest of my life in this limbo filled me with dread. The next day, I decided to visit my old friend, Mia. She lived a few towns over in a cozy apartment filled with mismatched furniture and the scent of freshly brewed coffee. Mia was everything I wasn't: bold, unapologetic, and fiercely independent. She had never married, and though she'd had her share of heartbreaks, she always seemed to land on her feet. As I poured my heart out to her, Mia listened intently, her dark eyes full of understanding. "You're not happy?" she said bluntly when I finished. "And it's okay to admit that. But the question is, what are you going to do about it?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know. I love him, Mia. Or at least, I think I do. But I don't think I'm in love with him anymore. And the thought of leaving, it'll destroy him." Mia leaned forward, her expression softening. "You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, Jenna. You deserve to be happy too. But you need to figure out what that looks like for you." Her words stayed with me long after I left. That night, as Eric sat in his office working late, I began to write down my thoughts. What did happiness mean to me? What did I want out of life? And was there a way to find it without breaking Eric's heart? Weeks turned into months, and the distance between Eric and me grew. We still went through the motions of married life, but our interactions felt hollow. One evening, I stumbled upon an old journal I had kept in college. Flipping through its pages, I was reminded of the dreams I once had. Dreams of traveling the world, writing a novel, and making a difference in people's lives. Somewhere along the way, those dreams had been buried under the weight of responsibilities and compromise. That's when I made a decision. I would give our marriage one last shot, but if things didn't change, I would leave. I owed it to myself to try, but I also owed it to Eric, to be honest. The next morning, I sat down with him at the breakfast table. My hands trembled as I placed a letter in front of him. "What's this?" he asked, his brow furrowing. "Just read it," I said softly. In the letter, I poured out my heart. I told him how I felt, how I missed the connection we once had, and how I was struggling to see a future for us if things didn't change. When he finished reading, he looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and sadness. "Jenna," he began, his voice shaky, "I had no idea you felt this way. I thought we were okay." "We're not," I said, tears streaming down my face, "but I want to try, do you?" He nodded, reaching for my hand. "Yes, I don't want to lose you." Over the next few months, we attended therapy together. It wasn't easy. Unpacking years of resentment and miscommunication never is. But slowly we began to find our way back to each other. We started going on dates again, sharing our thoughts and dreams, and making an effort to truly listen to one another. Through therapy, I learned that Eric had been dealing with immense pressure at work, which had caused him to withdraw. And Eric learned about my feelings of isolation and unfulfillment. We both realized that we had been so caught up in our own struggles that we had forgotten to lean on each other. One sunny afternoon, as we walked hand in hand through the park, I felt a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. Our marriage wasn't perfect, and it never would be, but we were both committed to making it work. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we had a real chance. Sometimes leaving isn't the answer. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to stay and fight for what you love. And in doing so, you might just discover something worth saving.